Thanks very much. This talk about graphic designers and about graphic design, and some things I've learned while being the former and doing the latter. And it's about how our clients helped us to find our way when we're lost, and how we as designers can help users to find their way. So yeah, if you want to fire away, that's cool. Oh yeah, well we skipped the first slide, but not to worry. So there's a million different ways that you can get lost. The classic treasure map malfunction from the Goonies. And the one thing that unites all these ways of getting lost is that it's really, really horrible to be lost. It's a horrible experience, it doesn't feel good, sweaty palms, etc. But when you find your way, it's amazing, and it's a really nice feeling. And so as creative people, as people who go through the creative process, we're constantly in a state where we find ourselves lost. And we're really good at the kind of beginning and end of that process. But the bit in the middle is a little bit more tricky. We try and kind of get past this by having really well worked out processes that we kind of think about. And they generally look like this, with a start and an end and a kind of linear motion through it. And we use them sometimes to decorate the about page on our websites. Like in that kind of mindset, this is what every project looks like. Where it's a clear view of the future, it's a clear view of everything along the way and the goals that you're trying to reach. But the reality is, of course, that projects are a complete mess, that the world is a messy place, and that generally projects look a lot more like this at the outset. You don't know where you're going, and more importantly, you really don't actually know where you're starting. And that can be one of the trickiest things to figure out. And so if we take that kind of very linear approach, and try and apply this to this kind of being lost, I suppose, and not knowing where we're starting, it can mean that we're dragging our clients back to the starting point that we favor. So we're kind of asking them to come with us back to the start and then to go through this linear process with us. And it doesn't happen, and it never works. And in fact, in my experience of being a graphic designer, one of my favorite parts about it is actually working out processes with clients and designing them with them. So this is Tony Brook from Spain, and I'm going to read a quote from him where he's talking about graphic design. He says, "What other profession do you end up where you learn so much about other people's businesses than in graphic design? It's remarkable. Clients will tell you everything. It's like being a therapist. That's really exciting. You never know what's going to happen from one week to the next." So that's where I think being lost and being a graphic designer or being any kind of creative person, it's part of the process, and it's a really important and exciting part of it. And that's what it ends up looking like. So processes start in a million different places and hopefully end up at a successful goal. So the next kind of thing I want to talk about is how users get lost. And I suppose as creators and as designers, we often think of ourselves as storytellers, kind of preaching to an enthralled audience of users. And stories are amazing. They're great. That's me, by the way. They're great at talking about the past and about the future, but they're not that useful when you want to talk about the present. And there's a really nice another quote, which I'm going to borrow, which is, "When you're in the middle of a story, it isn't a story at all. It's only a confusion, a dark roaring, a blindness. It's only afterwards that it becomes anything like a story, when you're telling it to yourself or to someone else." So when we're talking about the future or the past, stories are amazing. But when you're talking about the present, this is the experience that you're creating for people. It's the classic tourist asked a guy on the road where, for directions, and I wouldn't start from here. And so I suppose, and that's the response that they get, I wouldn't start from here. So as designers, and particularly as designers for interaction, we know that useful things have an inherent beauty. Useful things are beautiful things. But for me, this is where visual design and aesthetic design, complementing functional coherency, it's really where beautiful things can have a use. So it's not just telling people that things were okay and will be okay, but that they're okay right now. And it's in the moment, in that kind of the moment of experience, where there's a real potency to this kind of, these things are beautiful and they're functional, and the two things aren't at odds with each other. They're beautifully complementary. It's in the moment between kind of comprehension and reaction that there's this really nice kind of powerful effect when something feels right and feels well made and well put together. So that's really, I suppose, that's where I see the role of the graphic designer, marrying the kind of the functional coherency of a design with the emotional coherency. So to finish butchering another quote is, "We are all lost, but some of us are looking at the stars. Thanks very much.